Welcome, everybody, to the Hotwife, Cuckold, and Cheater panel. During this 2 o'clock hour, we have these three authors, and I'll name the authors here in a second, speaking and in, oh, I can't read this. Speaking. And in the reading lounge, we have at 210 Andrea Todd and 235 Sydney Brianna taking over. Crush wants to thank the Talking Kink with Alex and Ellie. If you're looking for a very dynamic and fun pair of adventurous friends who talk all about their real life adventures, this is the podcast for you. I especially recommend the ASMR episode. That one's really fun. All right, so the panelists that we have today are Sean. Oh, and I should say this beforehand. I'm bad with names, so if I get any of your names wrong, sorry. You can kick me later on. Just find me if you can. We have Sean Geist, Lacey Cross, and Hardison Parker with us today. Did I say all those names right?
Yep.
Got mine
Awesome.
right.
Great, great, great. All right, so the oh, I have to find the questions. Skylar's gonna kill me. I got them right here. I got them right. Don't worry, don't worry. All right. So we, of course, we have a list of questions that we're going to ask you guys, and we'll start with Sean and then Lacey, then Hardison. And if you guys want to leave some comments or questions below, if we have time at the end, then we can open it up for questions or read some of your comments too. And make sure you stick around till, at least till the middle, but just stick around through the entire thing because we have our the scavenger hunt word of the day too, so you don't want to miss that one. So the first question that we have for you guys today, tell us about the journey that led you to writing Hotwife slash Cuckold slash Cheater. Sean?
Well, I think it's for me, like when I started writing, I was just writing fantasy stuff, but that was, in my college years. I liked reading hot wife stories, cheating wife stories, cuckold stories in various, mostly penthouse letters. That's what I got started on. It maybe gives my age away. Um, so when I decided to start writing erotica, uh, I started with a cheating wife story that basically dealt with the husband's journey through discovering he was a cuckold. And that work went through 3 books, and that was almost 10 years ago. And that's kind of how I got started. And then I just moved on to, again, to different books. But yeah, that was how I started.
And Lacey, what about you?
Um, oh gosh. So I've I've only been actually writing since for like 3.5 years. I was always a reader, like a I read all the time. Um, and I definitely was reading erotica and then really spicy romance. But during the pandemic, I started binging like Amish romances and all sorts of weird stuff. And I ended up binging um, alien romance. And then I started blogging, and then it just like, I don't know, it just kind of like all snowballed. Like I tried NaNoWriMo. So then I just realized that I could write. And then I was just all like, okay, what am I going to write? And I wrote some 85K young adult novel because I couldn't write sex. And then like 2 months later, when I was like, this novel sucks. And I'm just like, okay, let's try erotica. And I published Alien Erotica. But then like 3 months after that, I was like, my family found out my alien pen name. And I was like, I want to write dirtier. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna write Hotwife. And then so I made Lacey and wrote Four Lawyers on a Hotwife. But my family eventually found out Lacey's pen name too. So now it's like whatever. But that's basically my story, which is kind of like convoluted, I know.
Have you read Was the Ice Planet Barbarians?
I have not.
It's actually not. It's pretty well written. I like it, but that's kind of the alien um, erotica there.
Yeah, I want to read it, but I don't read a lot unless it's erotica right now.
Okay. Hardison, what about you? How'd you get into all this?
Blame Lacey for that.
Okay.
Um, no, seriously, I had spent like 5 years writing my first book, which was a heavily BDSM book. Um,
It
and
wasn't Amish romance.
no, no, I try to avoid that lately. Um, but then Medium popped up, and people were writing stories, and there were publications, and Lacey suggested I write for a couple of them, and that her Hotwife stuff was doing really well. So I said, okay. And that's how I started writing Hotwife stuff.
Okay. Just an aside, I'm from northern Indiana, so the Amish erotica thing is kind of funny to me. I've not heard of that yet, so I'm gonna have to check that out. I'm guessing it's their adventures on Rumspringa or whatever that's called.
I think it's close to like Christian romance.
Ah, okay, okay. So it's not like okay. Anyway,
No.
back to the main topic at hand. Sky, I don't want Skylar to come over here with her mean mommy voice and yell at me again. Or do I? Dun dun dun. All right, second
That's the
question we
wrong
got.
panel there, Marty.
Yeah, that's a different panel. All right. Well, okay. So this is the next one. This question is who is your market? And then also, who is reading this niche and do you use specific marketing tools to attract them? This time we're going to go Hardison, then Lacey, then Sean. So Hardison?
Uh, I, I guess I get to go first because that way I can actually say something that Lacey won't say.
There you go.
um, she's the marketing genius. I take a lot of it from her, but I do a newsletter. I do TikToks. I do Facebook graphics. I have a PA doing most of that for me, the Facebook stuff and the Instagram stuff. Um, the market, I hate to fall back on this, but to me, it's a very wide market. My particular market of is seems to be mostly women in their 30s to 50s. Um, but that's just what my stats tell me. But then there's a lot of market with men of all ages. Um, so it's a really big market out there. It's just hard to pin it down. But the newsletter market I have is mostly, I'd say 60 to 70% women in their 30s to like late 50s.
Why do you think that is?
They like smut.
Okay. I don't know if there's I don't know.
I don't know. My
Um,
books are all written from the women's perspective.
okay.
Never write from the man's perspective.
Okay.
So maybe that's it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Lacey, what about you?
Okay, so the real answer I'm supposed to say is that it's a men's audience
Well, there you
because I
go.
write Hotwife. But so Hotwife is traditionally or mostly a man's market. But the way I write it gives me a large woman audience. Um, I do think that since I write happy Hotwife, that attracts women who like reverse harem. Because I mean, really, it's just one woman experiencing pleasure with a bunch of cocks, and a reverse harem market is down with that if they're looking for a quick read. But I do have a split market, like so I do have a the traditional males who like to read Hotwife from the woman's point of view, and then I have a very large woman market as well.
Is
um,
that following both like your various pen names, or is it just the Lacey Cross?
well, yeah, so I do write some BDSM as well on April Cross. So I do think that and BDSM is traditionally a woman's market, which is that also kind of is where I get my mixed market from. But for marketing, I mostly do newsletter. I do have Facebook, I mess around on Twitter, but my newsletter is my biggest marketing tool that I do, along with paid newsletters. Like Bookspry is awesome, but they're like booked 6 months in advance right now. But um, if you're an author Do a newsletter. Believe me, you won't regret it.
I took that advice and that helped me greatly. I
Now,
really oh
no, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry, sir.
no, I was just going on getting, I don't really know what my market is. I'm still kind of, a small fish in this pond. Uh, I do have a newsletter, and I have people, and when I put out a newsletter, I do get some sales and things like that, but I don't really know numbers as far as I think most of my readers are men. I write mostly cuckold from usually the husband's point of view. So it's, the market that likes that. So um, I think it's, again, mostly men and that's their kink. I, like I said, the newsletter is what I use mostly. I used to get some movement through Twitter, but recently there's nothing there. So it's basically one of the things that Lacey mentioned to me that I should try was putting my books into series on Amazon, and that does help because Amazon does a little help with that marketing. Somebody buys one of the books, they recommend the next book in the series. So that's what I do.
All right. Now, when you guys are talking about newsletters, what service do you guys like to use for that? I know this is not like one of the questions, but it's just a kind of a follow-up I had.
I use MailerLite just because
Okay.
it was recommended to me.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of us use MailerLite, just because they allow such their free tier allows quite a bit of stuff. ConvertKit now has a free tier that's really nice that I'm trying out on a couple pen names, but I think a lot of people do go with MailerLite first.
Okay.
And I started with MailChimp, but now I use MailerLite and I'm exploring is it ConvertKit or ConvertKit?
I don't know. I say ConvertKit. I don't know.
But either way, I'm starting to see if that one's going to be better for a new pen name I'm starting.
Amanda said she likes Flowdesk. It's the same price no matter how many subscribers you have. Interesting. All right. So the next question I have for you three, what question do you wish people would ask you about your writing? Let's go with Sean, and then we'll go Hardison, then Lacey.
Yeah. What question do you wish people would ask you about your writing?
Yes.
Where can I buy it? That's
That's
usually
always
my
a good
favorite.
question.
That's my favorite question.
Hey, you took my answer.
I just thought of, I mean, because I like any questions really, because I don't, I get a little bit of fan mail, I guess, because I do include my email address in all my books and that. So usually I'll get, you know, maybe one reader email every quarter or something. It's not a lot. I wish I would have more people asking questions because I do like to talk about it. It's just like I don't think I have a favorite question. Just where I come up. I mean, where do I get my ideas? That kind of question, because that makes me think about it. Where actually do I get my ideas?
All righty.
So that's my answer.
Okay. Hardison?
Other than where do you get your books? I really like it when someone asks about one of my characters, as if they're invested in the character, which happens more than I thought it would, but not as much as I would like it to. But all my stories are actual stories. The sex is there, but I can't write sex without a reason why they're having sex. So I have to put the story in, and some of my characters, especially Kara, who's this main character of my first novel, and Jesse, who's the star of uh, uh, the Hotwife adventures. Um, you kind of get into your characters. So when someone asks you about it and they seem to get the character right, or maybe they get it wrong, and you get into a nice discussion about it, um, it's really flattering.
Great. Lacey, what about you? What question do you wish or do you wish people would ask you about your writing?
I've thought about this question and I honestly have no idea. I get asked, since I have a large newsletter, I get asked a lot of questions. So it's not like I don't think there's anything someone hasn't asked me. I can tell you the thing that I don't like getting asked.
All right, what's
Uh,
that?
um, so I get asked a lot if I am a hot wife or if my stories are based on real life stuff. And anyone who's read a lot of my work would know that there's no way that what I write is happening in real life. Like it just is not. I write the fantasy. It is totally a fantasy. Like even if I'm not saying I am, but if I was a hot wife, because like I said, my family members know this pen name, so I'm more careful what I say these days. Um, Even if I was a hot wife, um, what I write would not happen. Like it would take a very, very rare husband to be the husbands in my books. But I will say that my books are usually the men in my books have oftentimes are based on things about my husband. So it really is me writing my fantasies. Like my wonderful, loving husband is just sharing me willingly, like with 10 men. Like, it doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah, some of the stuff that I write, I'm glad that it is not based on real life events because that would just be traumatizing for me. So yeah, that's always a nice thing. Next question. Is there a certain type of character in this niche that you identify with the most? And this time we're gonna go Lacey, Hardison, and then Sean.
Okay, so since I almost exclusively write women's point of view, I very much identify with the women I write. A lot of times they are well, and I'm very open about having ADHD. And as you're listening to me talk, you're probably like, oh my God, she's super scattered. I can see this. So I do have ADHD and I'm diagnosed ADHD. So I think it's really, really hard for me to turn my mind off. Like even through my entire life, like it's always been a problem with sex, with anything, like literally anything. So I write women who can experience pleasure, become mindless, like have that transcendent moment where they aren't thinking about anything but the pleasure. And so that is me writing my fantasy since that is very uncommon for me to for me to experience. So I do identify with the woman.
Okay. Hardison, what about you?
Well, I lived quite a few years as a swinger when I was married. Um, so a lot of what I write, I identify with because I lived. I mean, hot wife and swinging is a little different, but a lot of the same kinks are there. Um, so I wouldn't say a certain type of character in this niche. I mean, I also write the BDSM, and I that's a whole nother story.
Sure.
But as far as hot wife, cuckold, uh, cheating goes, you know, living as a swinger, that's what I identify with.
All right. What about you, Sean?
I think I identify again with the husband um, in the hot wife stories and the cuckold stories that I write. It's just, I mean, that's usually the viewpoint I write from. Recently, I've started writing from the viewpoint of the wife, but it's harder for me. Just trying to think, from the female perspective. Um, I'm still you know, my viewpoint is from the man. So, but yeah, I come at it from the husband's point of view, and I kind of my stories. I try to get into the emotions that the character is feeling. That's kind of what I'm known for, I guess. If I'm known for anything, is the angst involved in watching, you know, the wife with another man.
Okay. So right now is the time when I'm supposed to tell you all the six scavenger hunt words. So get your pens and your paper out, or however you're keeping track, whether it be a quill and some blood, or a piece of paper or a Word document. Here it comes. The word is your favorite word of ever, moist. Moist. Moist.
The night was
Moist.
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 Could you say that again, please?
Moist.
Thank you.
Like
Again,
the cake is moist. The best word ever. You're moistly okay with that. I love it. I love it. So moving on from that word, we're gonna go to and these last two questions are just gonna be whoever wants to answer first, and then we'll go through one, each. So we're not gonna go through a particular order. This one is, do you think this kink is happening more in real life than we believe? If so, why has it been downplayed? Or has it been downplayed? I should rephrase it. If so, has it been downplayed and why?
I think it's going on. I don't know about more than we believe because I didn't have any beliefs as to whether it was going on or not before I started writing it.
Okay.
But I think that people are doing it, and I think it's downplayed because it's a very male dominated society, especially lately. And no one wants to admit that their wife is going around doing this stuff. But I do think that I would say, maybe as high as 10% of couples are getting into this, especially as it becomes more prevalent in the writing. And there's more ways to read it. Like we didn't have Medium and other things like Substack, and there's so many. I'm not even gonna name them all to read about these kinks. And now that they're out there, people are starting to say, "Hey, I can do that." And so I think more people are doing it now than probably 10 years ago.
Okay.
I know Lacey. I mean, we've talked about this, and Lacey. I think Lacey mentioned it that I think there are a lot of swingers, but hot wife may not be. I mean, if a husband watching a wife in real life probably wants to get involved also. So there's probably more. There's a lot of swinging going on, but probably not as much, just hot wife and cuckolding going on as there is erotica written about it.
Yeah, see, I don't think it's going on as much as people would like it to go on. I think that also I don't think if it's going on, I think it's more likely to be cuckold than hot wife. The people that I've talked to, the men that I've talked to whose wives do this, they definitely get more of the mixed emotion feeling. When their wife is out on a date, um, they definitely are not as thrilled, but they also like it. So I do think that if the wife is out doing stuff, it's definitely, from my experience and my point of view, it's more cuckold. And then if it's happy hot wife, I do think that the guy is more involved, where it's more of an open relationship. But this is just my opinion based upon what I know from what people have told me. So I have no idea really.
A
So
lot of it depends on how much you think is going on. I mean, just because something is popular in like erotica or in the culture, people like watching movies about X. That doesn't mean X is going on a lot. It just means people like, it's the difference between fantasy and reality. You may fantasize about watching your wife fuck another man, but you may not really want to see that in real life.
Yeah.
True. I remember, so on my Medium, I like to interview people on Tinder. I'll ask them questions about the relationship, how they use Tinder and whatnot. And there was this one lady who said that her boyfriend was okay with her bringing home guys and having sex with them, but she didn't allow him to be in the same room, but he would be in the next room getting off on it, hearing them. And then I asked her, well, is he on Tinder? And she said, no, I made him uninstall Tinder. And I'm like,
He's on Tinder.
um,
He's on
huh?
Tinder.
Oh, he
He's on
probably is.
Tinder.
He
He
probably
is.
is, but he's
Yeah.
not telling her. That's
Right.
the thing.
Yeah. One of the things I tried to put in my hot wife books is a little bit of reality. Like my hot wives, they don't have sex every day. Like they have to find time because most of them have kids, most of them have jobs, so they can't just go around and sleep with the boss all the time, and they can't just go around and have people over to the house because the kids are there or because they don't have the money. So usually my hot wives are doing things on vacation or for special occasions or serendipitous where things just fall into place, but it's not in real life. It's really hard for people to, one, find the time, two, avoid physical and emotional attachment to whoever they're with.
Yep.
So that's going to limit it some.
Yeah, it's funny. When we were kids, we always think as adults we're going to have so much freedom when we grow up. And then it's like, oh, I can't do this because I have work, or I have that because I have to go to the laundromat and do laundry for 2 hours. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
All right. So this next question, uh, how do you feel about the perception that the one being cuckold, is it cuckold or cuckolded or cuckheld?
It's whatever Skylar wrote.
There we go, cuckold. Okay, so I'll reread the question using that. How do you feel about the perception that the one being cuckold is really a weak man? And then, would you consider him strong for being able to endure?
I I think if you're in the relationship, like then it takes a lot of strength to watch something that gives you pain, but you also enjoy. Um, if there are some times where I feel like if your wife cheats on you and you don't enjoy that experience, then you just leave. Uh, so it's not really a sign of weakness to continue the relationship, to be a cuckolded husband. It takes at least in my opinion, it would take a strong person to do that.
Okay, good answer, good answer. Hardison and Lacey, do you have a response?
Well, I don't write much cuckold, but I
Okay.
don't. I don't think a cuckold has to be a weak man, because it's a kink, and people have their kinks. And if your kink is to have your cock in a cage or be tied down while your wife is with someone else making you watch, or maybe you're just not able to do the dominant thing, so you're happy that she's getting that from someone else and you're getting off on it. That's your kink, and it doesn't make you weak because of it. A lot of people who are cuckolds in the bedroom are, running businesses and, uh, you know, doing dominant things outside of the bedroom. So I think it's a misperception that they're being weak, but it's a reality that it is a perception.
I think you hit the nail on the head with that. Is that it is in real life, again, a lot of men have to show that strong exterior, and so sometimes you want to give that up. You want to maybe relax and let that mask go and be a little bit more vulnerable, and that's where the kinks come in.
Huh, interesting. Okay, so I am not I don't write in really any of these. So I have a question for you three. Um, so a cuckold is with the man watching, correct?
The cuckold is the wife is dominant. So
Okay.
the wife has a lover, and the husband may or may not get involved. Usually, the hot wife is the man, enjoying watching his wife and sharing his wife. The cuckold usually is, there's a little bit of humiliation, probably. Um, at least that's kind of how I write it.
Okay. What do you guys like about what you guys write? Like what makes you like get up in the morning and be like, yeah, I'm gonna go write that.
I get into my characters. Each one has their own personality, and I get excited to write their story. I used to say when I wrote my first book that the story kind of writes itself, and that's really true. Is once I get the character defined, they tell me their story, and I just put it on paper, and that's what I like. So I've taken lately to writing during my lunch at work because this is not my day job. Um, and so I go to this little bookstore cafe and I sit there and I just tap on my phone on Google Docs, writing as much of these stories as I can. And I just really get into it.
Cool. Okay, so that's the end of the questions on the script. I'm gonna open it up for anybody that has any questions if they'd like to speak or put them in the chat. I'm looking through the chat right now to see if there's any questions.
I've been bad. I've been kind of answering the ones
No,
in
you're
the chat.
fine. You're fine.
I've got a question if you guys don't mind.
Sure.
So so it seems to me that this particular genre, particularly more if you think of it as a spectrum of sort of the stag and vixen on one side and the humiliated cuckold on the other, it seems to me like the this gets a stronger negative reaction from readers, from guys in particular. And I wonder if you guys see that and kind of how you deal with that and what your reaction to that is.
It's funny that you say that. I was talking with Lacey and Sean about this the other day. Um, I get a lot of responses to my Hotwife stories on Medium, um, asking me when the guy is going to get his day. um, and I don't dislike those comments. I think it's good that they're taking an interest in the story, but the Hotwife kink is not about that. But I try to write all my men in the Hotwife kink as having that excitement about what their wife is doing.
Sure.
And that's how I kind of handle that.
Yeah, makes sense.
I get a lot of there are certain people that they read my stories and then tell me, yes, how weak of a man the husband is and how he should do this or that, and I just laugh.
But they keep reading.
Yes, they do. I
Exactly.
think it's a that's a part of the kink for them. It's like they get mad at the husbands and they just want to read about this and say, I would do this differently, but I want to read this.
Right.
Because it's a part of they get frustrated, but they still come back for more.
Thanks.
Thanks for the question.
Let's see. I'm looking through the comments now, and I don't see too many questions. Oh wait.
Steve just asked one.
Yep, I just saw that one. So Steve says, I may have missed it, but can you define the difference between cuckold and stag? Is it dominance?
I honestly don't know that answer because I don't write much in that area.
I can answer that one. So no, it's not dominance. It's based upon what what the driving factor is of how it happens. So with a cuckold, he's not as necessarily willing, but he has more mixed emotions. Where when it's stag, he's more just like, yeah, go off, have fun. Like and it's kind of hard because everything is there's a blurry line between all these stories. Like, some people have told me, I mean, even here in the chat, someone said I wrote a cuckold story. And I don't purposely set out to write cuckold stories, but there's such a fine line between the difference between Hotwife and cuckold that even writers just blur the line continually. So, usually like stags, they like they get off on knowing other men are um like it's like a possessive thing. Like their wife is theirs, and they get off on knowing that other guys are, you know, getting or appreciate what they have. Like it makes them feel lucky to be with her when other people are desiring her, but they're also willing to share her. Where cuckold is, there's just the more mixed emotions and with the humiliation part. Um, and this is all like, no, there's nothing I say is definitive. Like there's just so many mixed emotions with Hotwife and Cuckold. It's hard to define it.
That's what makes it so hard to write too, because again, it's like you have your readers, but then if you add different elements to your Hotwife story, they may not like it because it seems too much of a cuckold story. And I think that's, yeah.
If you guys don't mind me adding, I think it's the emotion though that really sets this genre apart from a lot of other genres, right? I mean, you can write hot sex, and I've been guilty of this, that is fun to read, it's awesome, people are having a great time, but it's not as emotional. Whereas a lot of the stuff, and I've read some of you guys, I think you're, really, really like your stuff, it gets you here as in addition to other places. And I think that's just one of the strengths of the genre. And I'm new to it. I haven't really tried writing it. It's only been the last few months that I've read it, but that's where I think it really differentiates itself.
Good point. Good point. I did have another question that I just thought of. So for each of you guys, what is so for a reader that is interested in your work, what is a unique quality or something about your stories that they would find eye-popping?
I think
Go ahead, Sean.
the first when I started writing, again, I wasn't necessarily writing to a particular kink. My story started off as uh, as a cheating wife that led to a husband exploring his own sexual desires, and so there was a lot of things going on. I think one of the things that a lot of my early stories had was a willingness and an attempt to subvert expectations. So I mean, not that they had twist endings, but there was something, again, beyond just the hot sex. There was some other element going on. So that to me was not, I didn't write a normal cuckold story or a normal hot wife story. It was you know, a just a there would be some interesting twist in there.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I try to put something more than just how are we going to have sex this week into the story. So if I have a book about a hot wife going to Las Vegas, um, there's a lot of exploration of Las Vegas in there. There's a reason why she's going. There's a story. If I am writing something like I have a book called Telepornication, which is about it's more of a fantasy sci-fi type book than it is erotica, but it's full of erotica. So, but that's the story that could survive on its own. It's not without the sex, the story would still be a good story. So, those are things I try to write. I don't really just want to write a short sex story unless it's something I'm posting on Medium just to generate interest in my writing.
Great, great. Let's see here. Do we have any other more questions in the comments? If not, did our three panelists have anything that they wanted to add before I read the closing statement?
So I thought of an answer to your last question, so I'm just gonna say it.
Take it away. Take it away.
So I get like, oh, okay. So sometimes there are authors that look down upon short erotica writers, because, oh, you're just writing erotica. Oh, it's just smut. Like you're just an erotica writer. I think that people get surprised when they read my books because I have an underlying message in all of my books. And it is about women embracing their sexuality and being able to be a sexual creature, which a lot of us did not feel like we could while growing up. And I just think that I know for the people who get my message when they read my books, it's not just erotica. They really get the message. And I think that sometimes that surprises people because they pick up a short erotica just expecting hot sex, and then they read it and they're like, oh, that was more than just hot sex. So I think that a lot of us erotica writers are not writing just sex, and that can be the surprising factor to a lot of what we're doing.
Absolutely.
I really like that answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important for people to understand that again, I find sex a very positive thing, and however people get off, however consenting adults get off, um, I'm excited about that. I think it lends enjoyment to life, and the more people embrace that, the better. And it's why I'm not really excited about what's happening in America right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, what you're saying about how it's never just erotica, every genre has um their subliminal, or not subliminal, but inner journey. I mean, if you take horror, there's always the characters are always going through something, and horror is the thing that propels them through that issue. And same thing with erotica. Sometimes just people having sex, right? But sometimes there's something that's going on. I don't know if that made sense, but
Of course it did.
all right. So yeah,
Before your spiel, I just want to thank everyone who came to the panel. It's nice to be able to do this with a mix of readers and authors and kind of get to know some new people. So I really appreciate all the people who are listening to us.
it is a great it is great what Skylar and Sunny have been able to put on today. So if you get a chance, send them a thank you. But that's not part of the spiel. She didn't write that in her exit. So let me get to that
I wouldn't be
conclusion.
surprised.
Okay, so
I'm joking. I'm joking.
I know they're all great. Uh, so thank you for spending the last 43 minutes with us. The next panel in 15 minutes is editing. Yes, you need this. That's the title of the panel. We also have at 3:10 Rihanna Mallory in the reading lounge. Make sure you take note of that scavenger hunt word from earlier to
You
submit
mean
a friend.
moist? You mean
Yes,
moist?
yes,
Okay.
moist. For another chance to win. Now, when you're spelling it, don't spell it phonetically how I had it with the extra O's and the I's. So, giveaways will start at 4:45 Central Time, not Eastern, not Pacific, not GMT time, just uh, Central Time. You must be present to win. And then make sure that when you're leaving the breakout room, you click leave room and not leave meeting. If you leave the meeting, you will be gone and you've got to log back in. It's a big hassle. So make sure you click leave room and not leave meeting. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. It was great.
It was a really good session, guys.